fun riff. Let's see. Pretty close. Ready for this? So Rush, Tom Sawyer, that really cool riff. I think it's considered probably like the pre-chorus or whatever. So what's cool about this, I am gonna probably have to stop the dog from barking. She's been so quiet, which is so funny. Been quiet for about an hour, as soon as I start the stream. So the cool thing about this riff, let's see if she stops. Okay, I have something for her that will make her stop. Hold on. Let's do this. So you're coming with me on an adventure here just for a second. Okay, hold on. Here, we'll flip this so you can see her. Hey. Kaya. Hey, that's enough. It's enough. Shh. She's just singing. Hey, Dave, how are you? She's just singing. Singing along. Do you know, Dave, do you know this Tom Sawyer riff we're about to learn? Super cool. Okay, hey, you gotta be quiet though. Kaya. Okay. All right, let's see if we can do this again. Let's try this again. Fingers crossed. Okay, so if guitar's in hand, big Rush fan, so you probably already know this riff. It's a good one for sure. Okay, so let's jump right in and learn the riff. There's two things happening here. There's a bass line and then there's this drone tone. And the drone tone is actually your open B string, so your second string, and then the 4th fret of the 3rd string, which is also a B. So we have two Bs. The exact same pitch, so you have a little bit of almost like natural chorus, right, happening from that. So we're hitting strings 3 and 2 at the same time. So you have your 3rd finger. You could use your pinky too, but most people will find it easier with the 3rd finger on that 4th fret of your 3rd string, your G string, to give you a B. And you're also playing the open B, the 2nd string. So this is going to be the drone tone that we're playing in between this bass line. Let's take a look at the bass line by itself, which is pretty simple. It's going from open E to F sharp on the 2nd fret, to 3rd fret G, open A, so E, F sharp, G, A. And the rhythm there, it's like a dotted 8th note with a 16th, so we would count it as 1 E and A, 1 E and A. So 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and A. And then the 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and So the G on the 3rd fret will fall on beat 3 on the beat again, and that open A will be the again. So 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4. So the open E and the G were both on the beats, 1 and beat 3, and then the F sharp and the open A were on those 1 E and the 4th part of that beat. Okay? We'll come back and put the drone tone in a minute. Let's finish the bass line. I'm going to just give me one moment. This dog makes it so hard to stream. I forgot to get her a bone. Okay, hold on. You gotta stop, Nicholas. Okay, let's see what happens. Gave her a treat thing. Okay, so to finish our bass line, so we have E, F sharp, G, A. Then we're gonna go E on the 2nd fret of your D string, the 4th string. So E to C, 3rd fret of your 5th string. Then B, 2nd fret of your 5th string. Open A, so, sorry. And same rhythm, 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and so we're following that same rhythm we did in the first part. So E, C on the 3rd fret, B on the 2nd fret, open A. So the C, B, A, we're just on your 5th string there, A, B, C. So you have the E, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E. And then the last part, there is this G on the and of beat 4. So 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and G is on the and of beat 4. Now the bass is doing something a little tiny bit different. It has a couple like, how does it go? 1, 2, and 3, bum 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 bum. It has these a couple little passing tones, which we could throw them in there too. I think I also missed something else about the bass line. But we could throw those passing chords in there too if you wanted to incorporate a bit of the bass, but we're mostly at the moment just trying to focus on just the guitar part. So here's our whole bass line. And we start again. E, F sharp, G, open A, E on the 2nd fret, C, B, A, G, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and 1. Neat? Now what's going to happen with our, remember we said at the very start of this, we're playing that open B and then the 4th fret of your 3rd string. So give us 2 Bs, 2 the same pitch Bs. So you got to hit strings 3 and 2 at the same time. So when we, there's one other little tiny thing about the very beginning, and I actually like it because, so most of the time when we hear that bass line and then these drone tones, it's single notes except for the very first part. So this is a 2-measure riff, so it's 8 beats altogether, 4 beats in each riff, 4 beats in each measure, sorry. 2 measures, or 2 bar, whatever you want to call it, same thing. 2 bars, 2 measures, the same thing. So the beat 1 of the first measure, when we hit that open E, we also hit this B to make it a power chord, so the 2nd fret of your 5th string. So you'll hit 5 and 6. That's the rest of the time we're just playing single bass lines, single notes. But there's that was beat 1 again, right at the end of it, which was really the start of it again. So we'll hit the 2, which is kind of cool. It adds something a little bit different to bring us back to beat 1 each time. So now the next trick is we have to hit 5 and 6, and then we have to get to that 3 and 2. So it's almost like we're, well, not almost, we are playing B octaves here. We have a B on the 2nd fret of your 5th string and a B on the 4th fret of your 3rd string, which are giving us octaves. Somewhere over the rainbow. Or, wrong key, but that's some songs that we know when we hear octaves. So 5 and 6 together, and then 2 and 3 together. And that's just 1 in the and of the beat. 1 and. Do you remember how we said the bass line went 1 E and that it's going to move on the beat and then the of the beat? Well, these drone tones, these 2 B's, are going to fall on the and of the beat. 1 and 1 and. So we have to just practice going from 5 and 6 to 2 and 3. For most people, this is the tricky part here, is trying to 1 and. If you just had a metronome on and you were just practicing beat 1, you just have 1 and 2 and 3. Tick, 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 tick. That's a good exercise, right? Just getting used to playing the 2 strings and then the other 2 strings. So 1 E and Then we have to, now we're going to leave this 3rd finger through the whole riff to keep this drone thing. We're going to try to let it ring as much as we can. So 1 E and So even when we move this first finger from that B to this F sharp, actually only one of my strings rang there. 1 E and Okay, and then now this next note is going to be this B again, but because we had to move our finger from the B to the F sharp, some people Well, no, actually, there's no way to do that. Never mind. Let's stick with what we did. So you had it's now going to come across to that F sharp on the second fret. It's going to bar, so it can also play the second fret of the A string to give us a B, because that's the next note we need. We're going to go 1 E and a 2 E. So on the E of beat 2, we're going to hit this B. So that's why we're going to bar this. And then as soon as we do that, remember how it goes 1 E and, so the and of the beat, we're going to stick this on the end of the beat again, which is the end of beat 2 now. So 1 E and a 2 E and. 1 E and a 2 E and. Neat. Beat 3, we're going to play, it looks like this, like a G chord, like your open G, except you don't need this because we only need this bottom part. So second finger on the third fret of your low E, first finger on the second fret of your A string. Sorry, I took this away. This should, remember we said a minute ago or so, don't move that third finger. So now you have this. So you still have your B's, like the beginning and this G here. Now this time we're going to go 6, 5, 4. I do lots of lessons on picking. I'm going to leave this up to you how you want to pick this. So alternate picking, right? Down, up, down. Down, up, down. Natural picking or economy picking, down, down, down. Or I'm going down, down, up. I think. Am I? I am. And the reason I'm doing that, because after we play these 3 notes, G, B, D, this is beat 3, 3, E, and we're going to play open A, the 5th string by itself. Because it's the 4th part of the beat, it would typically be an up if we were alternate picking, but because it has an accent, like it's one of those bass notes, right? It's that one. I want to down pick it for the accent part of it. So I'm going down, down, up. So I'm basically breaking the rules here if we're talking about alternate picking. Down on the beat, okay, that makes sense. I'm going down on the second part, which would normally be an up if we were alternate picking. I'm going up, which would normally be a down on that D. And then I'm going down on the A, which would normally be an up. Make sense? So I'm going down, down, up, down. And this is just beat 3. 3, E, and sorry. So G to the B, that open D, and then open A. I'm sorry, keep taking my third finger away to show you. Remember, it would stay there. So, sorry. Let me try that again. You can see it's tough to get that drone tone even, like every time, right? To make it so it's being hit with about the same force. So like when in the beginning when we were just practicing doing this. That's a great exercise because that brings us again back to control. So we can control, these drone tones. Sorry. Okay, let's keep moving. So after I'm going to put this finger back on because it's not supposed to move. So there's our G on beat 3. There's that open A. Then we're going to play an E. So this first finger, which was on the B, is going to pop down to this E. So here's our G form. There's that open A. Then we're going to have to hit this E. 4th fret, second fret of your 4th string. Sorry, I said 4th fret. Ignore that. 2nd fret of your 4th string. And that's going to be the E of beat 4. 4 E. so that our two open Bs are once again on the and of beat, this time beat 4. So, oops, they should have been hit together. So 3E and a 4E and. So measure 1. So far so good? It's a fun riff. The reason I actually picked this, when I set up the live stream a couple weeks ago, I just said classic rock riff, and I actually had no idea what I was going to teach. And then yesterday in the car, coming back from the dog park, I heard this, and I was like, oh, okay, that'd be a cool riff to teach. I couldn't really remember how to play it, so this morning I had to go back over that. Stefanich is asking me who my favorite guitar player is. And David says, growing up, all the other guitarists in town wanted to play like Eddie Van Halen. I wanted to play like Alex Lifeson. Yeah, cool. Yeah, I had some friends that were huge into Rush in high school. I guess I was into Rush too. I got a little more into them a bit later than high school. But okay, let's keep going though. A favorite guitar player? I don't think I would really have one. I love so many different players, and I can find appreciation in just about everybody's playing. Yeah, even some players that tend to get a lot of crap for maybe not being the cleanest players, or I can still find stuff that I dig about their playing too. Like. Yeah, it's everybody has a voice, and as far as favorites, I don't have one. I like so many different players, and I like them all for different reasons, and I'm constantly flipping between who I'm listening to. Okay, so that we have measure 1, simple. I'll play it once here. Again, anybody just joining us, you'll want to rewatch that for measure 1. So measure 2. So measure 2 is actually going to start on this E that we remember how we had to, when we went from the G, we had to drop that first finger down from the B to the E. The E is what we're going to hit again to start beat 1 of measure 2. David says his favorite guitar players are his dad and his son. That's so awesome, David. So E. Then we'll hit our 2 B's again, that drone thing, on the and of the beat. 1 and. This time we're going to go to C, the 3rd fret of your A string, your 5th string. And that will be the E. Remember how we went 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a. So that's on the 1 E and a, the of the beat. And then we're going to hit the E again on the of beat 2. So 1 E and a 2 E, and then the 2 B's on the and again. Make sense? Hopefully that's good. And the same rhythm. So notice those the open B and the fretted B, our drone tone, are always happening on the and of the beat, right? Let's see, so where are we at? Yeah, so we're almost done. Now we're to beat 3 and 4 of the riff, and that's going to go B, 2nd fret of your A string, to the open B's again. 3 E and 3 E and, sorry, 3 in the and. Open A on the 3 E and 3 and So I'm just taking my finger off that B to the open A. Now, there is one thing different. We're going to hear this drone tone in a different spot for the first time on this very last part of the riff, which kind of makes it pretty cool. So let's just go. Here's measure 2 again, starting on the first one, which was the E to that C. So 1 E and 1 E and A. So we did that part. Back to the E again, so you don't even have to move any fingers. And then the B, so the drone tone's on the and, so 3 E and, open A and the A, so again, same rhythm. Here's where it's different. This next time we play the open Bs, it's the first time we break the rule of putting it on the and of the beat. We're going to put it on the of beat 4. So it's going to go, and the reason for it is because this low G, remember that note when I was trying to figure out the bass line at the beginning? It happens on the and of beat 4 to wrap up the measure. So instead of those two Bs happening on the and of the beat, we hear the G. So which means Alex Lifeson of Rush, when he wrote the riff, to do that, he ended up putting these two open strings right after beat 4 on the for So if I go from just beat 3 and 4, so the last two beats of the second measure, I'm going, see that? So 3E and now normally where those open Bs would be on the and of 4, they're not. They're going to go on the E of 4. So 3E and a 4E, 3E and a 4E, and to be able to put that low G on the and. It's very important because it's a 16th note before it has been every other time, so it changes the feel. And then remember, when we come back around to repeat this riff, we're going to hit those two strings, 5 and 6, to start the riff again. So I'm going to play the whole riff and kind of listen to those two Bs. You hear them all on the and through the riff, and then you'll notice on that very last beat of the second measure, you hear them on the It's in a slightly different place. So we have... Sorry, I'm going to do that again. I should have practiced more. Doom, gone, bang on. One E and a 2 E and 1 E and a 2 E and. I hope that made sense. I know there's a lot of stuff to take in, but the most important thing, if you're just kind of using, your ear and feel, which is totally fine and a great way to learn the guitar, just note that there's something feels a little different at the very end of the riff before repeating it, right? So 1 E and a 2 E and 3 E and a 4 E and 1 E and a 2 E and 3 E and a 4 E and. So bang bong. We hear those two open Bs, 1/16th note earlier than we did every other part in the riff. It's pretty cool, isn't it? It's a great riff. So here's what I'll do. Oh, somebody, Resham, nice to see you. Thanks. I don't recognize the name. Maybe the first time joining us. The Tornado of Souls riff is awesome, and I'm actually going to write that down because I would love to do a live stream on that one. That's a great idea. Tornado of Souls. The riff. Well, there's so many riffs in that tune. You mean the mean one, like the main one at the beginning? I might be mixing that up with another Megadeth song. Anyway, I'm gonna add that to the list because that's a great one. Okay, so I'm gonna play this again and I'm gonna play it slow. So anybody wants to play along. Actually, let's do a really quick recap. We basically learned a bass line that went. Starts again. And what happened in that, we had 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and that last G fell on the and. So basically what was happening in each of those riffs, the first and the third note are falling on the beat, the second and the fourth are falling on the 1 E and a. So right, open E is on the beat, 1 E and a. And then 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E. That G, the third note, falls on beat 3 on the beat, and the open A is on the So 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a. Right. So if I go tick, tick. Sorry, 1 E and a tick, 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 tick. I'm going, my metronome is going twice as fast. Oh, which brings me to something though that is actually really cool. Sometimes if you put the metronome twice as fast, now instead of having to count it as 1E and 2E and like 16th notes, you can count it as 8th notes, which for most people is much easier on the head. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So now you're playing on the 1 and then you're just playing on the and. 1 and 2 and on the and of 2 this time because the riff has been elongated. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and tick. And remember that little boom, boom, boom is what the bass player plays, not the guitar, but you can do that too. I guess she's back to barking, which might mean it's probably time to wrap it up. I think I was going to say I was going to play the riff slow a couple times, so I'll do that really quick. I want to say thanks for everybody for coming in and checking this out. Yeah, okay, so here we go. So I'm going to go, let's see, 1E and 1E and 2E and 3E. I think I'm going to play it about here, which gives us a 1E and 2E, 3E. I wish I had a metronome. Okay, let's try that. 2, here we go. It's a tough riff to play clean, right? And obviously it's quite a bit faster than that. Yeah, it's a tough riff. There's a lot of stuff in here to, you know, I guess where we're going is it's tough to play it very clean and very in time and make sure that when we hear those drone tones, we hear both strings. It's really easy for that finger to be slightly tilted down and then we don't hear the open B, right? So you got to get it to stay standing up so that you hear the third string B, but you also hear that open B, the second string. Again, same pitch, right? Some people may know to tune their guitar that way. So that's a trick, to have it where we hear those two Bs consistently together and hitting them with the same amount of pressure. That's a big trick too. And I'll say, and I'm not playing it really all that well, honestly. To really get to that point, you have to play the riff over and over enough times that it becomes very automatic. So you're playing the riff without really thinking too much about what you're playing. And then you can listen and you can really start focusing on the feel, how hard you're hitting every string. Not that you shouldn't try to do that when you're working at it in the beginning. You totally should. You know, even when we just did this. 1 and 2 and. That's a great place. That's a great place to sit and repeat that over and over again. This was the most Rush lesson yet. Nice. It did feel a little rushed, but you can do the replay, right? And I think the replays are pretty important, right? Just, you know, learn beat 1, learn beat 2, pause it, play it a few times, hit play, you know, add the third and fourth. Keep adding to it until you have the whole riff. It really is the trick to, I sound like a broken record, but it is really the trick to practicing. We could just take this whole riff and just try to play the whole riff, but it's probably going to end up just being a sloppy mess. And you know, I think I've said this before, but this is so important. And it took me a long time to learn this when I first started playing. I always felt like if I could play it at 60 beats per minute, but I couldn't play it at 70, I would practice it at 70 because I was like, well, I can already play it at 60 or whatever, 60, 65, whatever number you want to pick. Let's say 60, 65. Let's say 5 beats per minute different. So I can play it at 60, feeling pretty good. 65, it's quite a mess. So I'd practice it at 65 because I can already play it at 60. But this is a mistake that I made for many, many years. So I practiced it at 65. basically what I was doing was playing it wrong, playing it sloppy, and playing it over and over wrong and sloppy. So basically reinforcing wrong and sloppy, right? So it took me a long time to understand this. I had to come back and play it at 60. Keep playing it at 60 until 60 becomes like boring. And then when you go to 65, and you maybe want to go to 63 first and then 65, I don't know, you have to decide yourself. Depends on the riff, how complicated it is. But you jump to 65, what will happen is you'll find yourself playing it at 65 pretty effectively. And you can break it down again like we did, like, so you practice this slow, then back to. The rush tune is not that fast, but just to give you an idea. But that's probably one of the most important tips I could ever tell anybody. Practice it where you have control. Don't practice it where you don't. If you're playing something over and over that's just a sloppy mess, you're just reinforcing the sloppy mess. Either break it into smaller chunks and keep the tempo the same. That sometimes can work. Or like one beat, for example, as opposed to a measure or a riff. Or slow the whole thing down. So I do a combination of both, right? I break the beats down and then I put the riff together and gradually speed it up and speed it up. And I know a lot of people think that that sounds like a very slow way to practice. And you're like, oh my goodness, how long would it take me to learn? It's like, it takes me however long to learn 2 measures. That's only 2 measures of a whole song. But you'd be surprised at how fast it actually ends up going. Something happens up here in the brain and the fingers and the hands. And if you do that for a few days in a row on a riff, it really starts taking shape quick if you continue to do that same thing. Most people don't. Most people will slow it down, do whatever they need to do to learn it that first time around, and then they just continue to, try to play it at full speed all the way through with the mistakes and the sloppiness, and then that's how they play it for the next 5 years. not everybody, but you know what I mean? There's always those players that do that, and if you want to not be one of those players, if you want to really have some clean riffs when you pick up your guitar, you really got to kind of do that stuff. David says he thinks every band he did played Limelight and Subdivisions. Yeah, very cool. And Reggie, who I play with on a regular basis, he was in a Rush tribute for years and years, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, and I think they traveled around quite a bit, and and Reggie was Getty, so that's pretty neat, eh? I love that little difference in the end of it. It's just a cool riff. It's a super cool guitar riff. Those drone tones on the end of the beat, with the exception of beat 4 on the last measure. Anyway, I'm going to stop there. I want to say thanks for everybody to come in again. It's awesome. And yeah, there's a couple new people in here today, which is cool, and some return visitors, which is always great. And yeah, I'll leave this video up on the site for a little bit, and then if you can't find it in the search on YouTube, because sometimes I then mark them private, which you can still find them in the members part of musiclearn.com. So you can always do that. I'm working on any covers. I'm not really. I'd like to be, but I'm not. But I would absolutely like to do some covers. I was working on a few different ones about a year ago and was getting really, really close. Akshay, how are you? You made it in. About a year ago or so, maybe, and was getting really close to posting them, like feeling like they were, acceptable. And I don't know whatever happened. Probably the dog. The dog makes it tough to. It's getting better. I don't want to talk negative stuff. She's getting better all the time. But she definitely comes with some challenges. By the way, you look like the guy from A Beautiful Mind. I think that's probably a compliment. Can't even think. I know that movie, but I can't even think. Anyway, I hope everybody had fun with this riff. And again, watch it on the replay. Break it down in pieces, Oh yeah, he says. Actually says he's fine. Wasn't aware he's still doing live streams. Well, I got away from it, and now I'm back on it. I'm not doing them weekly, but close. I sometimes are taking a few weeks in between, but yeah, the plan is to get back at it. I've been really busy with the site and the members part specifically. And I'm gonna have some stuff that I'm gonna share, especially with like all the people coming into the streams very soon. Just because I'm pretty proud of what's happening with it. It's kind of, this year marks the 20-year anniversary of musiclearning.com. I started it in 1999. So it's 20 years ago, but it's crazy to me. They started putting online lessons on 20 years ago. Oh, David's mentioning, like to see a lesson on Buddy Guy. Okay, I'll write that on the list too. Not even familiar with that song, or maybe if I heard it, I would know. Buddy Guy. Yeah, anyway, yeah, so basically what I kind of envisioned for the site like 20 years ago is like finally kind of coming to where I want it to be. So I'll explain it all soon, but yeah, I'm pretty proud of it. I'm pretty excited about it. I think it's going to be a super valuable, easy to understand, easier to use than anything I've had up in the past. Yeah, and there's going to be different like little avenues you can take through it. Anyway, I'll explain that all later. So he says, I like your version of Let Her Go better than the original. Oh, that's very, very cool. The original is pretty cool too, though, but thank you very much. That's very nice of you. So, yeah, I'm going to go stop the dog from barking and mow the lawn before I have to go get my youngest from school. And yeah, we'll see you. Just stay tuned to the channel, or yeah, stay tuned to the channel, and you'll see when I'm going to pop up the next live stream. But I do got to go stop her because she drives the neighbors nuts when she barks like that. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's awesome. And I'll hopefully see you in a week or two back in the streams. We'll pick another one. I'm kind of leaning a little bit to maybe some Megadeth stuff like the Tornado of Souls. So yeah. Hey, Ronnie. Yeah, very cool, guys. Thanks so much for being in here, and we'll see you in a week or two. Have fun with that riff, eh? Jeez, I forget how to stop the stream. Oh, now I know how. See you guys. Thank you so much.